Look, it's good to be with you again. Welcome to another edition of Ken Simmons Show. And isn't my theme song gorgeous? Stardust, beautiful song, Hoagie Carmichael. Used to dance to that all the time when I was younger, but enough of that. I have a guest with me today. I have two guests with me today, and they are fantastic. You're going to enjoy them. I have told you in the past that when I interview somebody, I don't want to know anything about them until we go on the camera, so we can both see them at the same time. In other words, I like the spontaneity of not knowing who they are, so we can meet them together. You understand what I'm saying? All right. You know, in a monologue, generally, what you're supposed to do is take current events of the day, the newspaper, or television, or radio, or whatever you see. But this is awful. COVID-19. We don't talk about that. We've got Biden. We don't talk about him. And Trump. And all these things that are going on. What else is going on there? The riots that are going on. The hostility that's around. The murders that I see. The things in the... There's no good news. So let me tell you a story that happened to me a long time ago on television in a town called Canton. C-A-N-T-O-N, Canton. We were going to do a show at the Blue Hills Regional Vocational School. I didn't think I'd get that all out. It was a beautiful school. It took us 3 days, not full days, 6-hour days, to do a 1-hour show. That's how big this place was. We did a lot of walking and but there was one glitch. It was a great show. It was one glitch. The superintendent of schools, who was a PhD, a doctor, and he insisted on being called doctor. I won't tell you his name because I don't want to embarrass him, although I'm not sure he's around now. That was a long time ago. He said he wanted to go on the air. He had something to say, and he wanted to go on the air. And he asked me, well, I'm not the boss. The cameraman's the boss. The director's the boss. The producer's the boss. I'm just a pretty face. And we got on the air, and we're doing the show. We opened it up. We roamed around. They had a beautiful body shop there where they taught kids how to do body work, mechanics. They had a restaurant there, a full restaurant. And after the show, I used to go there because you could buy a lunch for $2. The only thing is they had no menu. They had one thing on the menu, and that was it. I got a filet mignon one time for $2. Pretty good. I got another story about that. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So we're doing the show, and every time we took a break, he said, when am I going on? I want to go on. Don't forget, I want to go on the air. Okay. That guy there, the big tall guy, he tells you when you're going on the... I couldn't take any more of it. I went up to... His name was Stu. I said, Stu, I know that this is none of my business, but could you put this guy on the air so we can get rid of him? He said, okay. After the next break, introduce him. I'll do a close-up on him, and we'll do that. Okay. So after the next break, I said to him, you're going to be on after the next break. Okay. After the next break, I introduced him, and Stu came in with the camera. When they're going to do a close-up in Randolph, they come in real close like this, right up. The camera's almost on your face. And he said, okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, did the countdown. And the guy just stood there, his mouth like this. And so Stu said, cut. He said, is something wrong? He said, I didn't expect you to come that close with the camera. Okay, I'm all right now. So we did it again, introduced him, blah, blah, blah. And again, the camera came up close, and he said, say a word. Say a word. So the next time, Stu says to me, if he does that again when we're on the air, just go up to him and say, doctor, is there anything I can help you with? We can cut that part out, but it'll get him talking. I said, okay. So again, the camera came up close, and Buddy started talking. And he got his message out. And when he got all through, it took him 2 minutes. When he got all through, he said, I never want to do that again. He said, I had no idea it was that difficult. And that's a true story. And a lot of fun. By the way, I want to tell you one more thing about that school. My wife passed away, and we used to go there for lunch once in a while. And when she passed away, I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to make a decent cup of tea. So I went over to the school. I said, do you remember me? They said, yeah, of course we remember you. I said, my wife passed away. I don't know how to cook. I'm willing to pay you if you teach me how to cook, because I know that's what you do here. He said, have you got a week? I said, yes. 4 hours a day? Yes. They taught me how to make pot roast and roast lamb and roast pork, enough to feed myself. They didn't take anything for it, but I'll never forget them for doing that. And by the way, I used to enjoy cooking. I don't anymore. I've enough of it. God, I hate cooking, cleaning up, and all that. All right, that's it. I got a couple of guests I want you to meet. As I said, I met these people before. We did a show a few weeks ago. He's a Vietnam vet, and he had a story to tell that impressed me so much. I asked him after that show if he'd come on again with me and talk about something a little more pleasant, a little more light. We may get into Vietnam because why not? He's a veteran. He's paid his dues. We owe him something. So, okay, don't go away. Take off your shoes, pour yourself your favorite beverage. I'll be right back. We're back. Hey, we're back, and I'm glad to be back. You know, at my age, it's good to be back from anywhere. All right, I want to introduce you to two enchanting people. They are, I'm going to say, they're true, real Americans. What does that mean? It means they like things that are simple. They like things that are great. They smile a lot. They're a great audience. Sue and Bob Johnson. How are you?
Good.
You better now?
A lot better.
The last show was, you had everybody crying.
Yeah. It was pretty heartfelt.
Right? It was, I was very moved by that show. And I've done veterans at the VA hospital in Brockton. We used to do shows up there. We'd go up there and do, we did a paraplegic, remember the paraplegic we did? And he was incredible. He was incredible. You know, he's smiling all the time. And when we got through the show, he said, where are you going now? And I said, I'm going home. He said, if you got a few minutes, maybe we could go and have a couple of drinks, see if we could find a couple of broads and go dancing. It's a paraplegic. How can you beat that?
Yeah.
You know, I've got a guy coming in with his daughter. He's 99 years old, Second World War. He was in the Navy, on a battleship, I guess, I'm not sure of that. And I said, do you want us to go to him, take the cameras to him? She says, no. You're going to be amazed at how, the only thing he does, he needs a walker to walk. But other than that, he's incredible. Before we get into something a little lighter, I want the people to remember that you were awarded the Purple Heart. You were wounded 3 times in one day, am I right?
Twice.
Twice, okay. And you are now looking for the Distinguished Flying Cross?
I was put in for the Distinguished Service Cross, and it was bumped down to the Bronze Star.
Okay.
But since it was never entered into my DD-214,
that's amazing.
They refused to give it to me until I guess I'm going to have to fight for it. It's.
You've been to the Advocate here?
No, I haven't. I assumed it was already in my DD 214 when I put in for my medals here a few years ago. And that's when I found out that it wasn't. I do have a certificate that was awarded to me for my Bronze Star and my wings and my Air Medal, which I never received either one of them.
Your Air Medal, now, were you?
I was with the 1st Air Cavalry Division, 8th Engineers, and everywhere I went in Vietnam was in helicopters. And we were shot down in 3 of them. Actually 2, and we our props hit the trees going in for a landing in a Chinook. And of course we just fell like a rock. But nobody was injured, that was a good thing.
Thank God.
And the others, we were shot down with 51 fire. One was in the jungle. We ended up landing in a NBA bunker complex, which was active. They thought they was under attack, so everybody took off running. And we spent the night there. They couldn't retrieve us until the next day. And the other one, we was coming in for a landing in Quan Loy in a Chinook, or in a Huey, and we was hit by 51 fire, and about 30 foot above the runway, our main rotor froze up on our prop, and it busted off, and it just went down the runway like you was throwing a frisbee. And of course, we just fell to the runway, and it broke both the runners off, and everybody jumped out. Nobody got hurt in that, and of course, the helicopter blew up.
Wow.
But we were pretty fortunate. And the only other incident that I had in the air was with the C-130, and we were coming in for a landing, and they knocked out the engines on one wing, and I thought we were going to crash. I thought the wingtip was going to touch the runway, and the pilot, he was a good one, he pulled it out of it. And so...
Of course, the American pilot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The best.
I'm going to stop you there, right there for a minute, until we let the people know who you are. Sitting beside Bob is his enchanting wife.
Howdy!
Her name is Sue, and they just recently moved here to Carver. And how long have you been here now? A couple of months?
Since August 6th.
August 6th, okay. And you're from Montana.
Yes.
And why did you move here?
Family, for one reason.
Okay, good. That's a good enough reason for me. How long you been married?
15 years.
How many?
15 years.
15.
And we were friends for 15 years before that.
Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Children?
No.
No.
I have 2 boys from previous marriages.
Okay. And you have none?
I'm the oldest of 9 kids. I knew better.
You're all just 9 kids. Are you really? No kidding.
No children.
How do you like it here in Carver?
I love it here. I was born in Quincy,
Oh,
and I moved out west to explore and the adventure. I wanted to see the country.
yeah.
I bought a backpack thinking that's what backpacks were for, traveling across country, and boy did the Westerners laugh at me when I got there. But I lived out west for 48 years before I came back home.
Are you people, horse people, coming from Montana?
Host?
Horse.
Oh, no
Hi-ho
media,
silver.
no hi-ho silver.
No?
But we were hunting and fishing and happy when we were connected with nature and out in the woods. Montana's a very small town with very long roads.
Yeah, yeah. That's big sky country.
It's God's country too, they call
Yeah.
it. My mom, who was sick with colon cancer, came 3 times before she died because she felt closer to God than any place else on this earth.
Really?
Yes, she'd never seen skies so blue.
Where was she living?
She lived in Rockland, Mass.
Rockland.
Yes. And I am very honored because a lot of people will never get to see what I've seen in Idaho, Montana,
Yeah.
California, and Colorado are the 4 states that we stayed in. And the last place we stayed in was pretty remote. It took an hour and a half to get to the grocery store, to the hospital, one way,
But walking, you mean?
driving.
Driving?
Yeah.
An hour and a half?
Yeah, so you have to be tough and strong-willed to live out west and know how to make do with things like you have to have your wood ready, you have to have your pantries full, you have to have wood cellars and freezers, you have to have a way to keep things going with generators, and if you don't have gas for generators, it's just the ripple effect of survival.
Yeah. Now, the next question I was going to ask you was, were you married to him when he was in Vietnam, but you weren't?
No, I'm actually Bob's fourth wife. He had high maintenance girls.
It took 4 to get the right one.
You are an active little fellow, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
And I was previous to someone too in Idaho, and Bob was my neighbor, and I got rid of the dud and got me a real man. Cowboy.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, you're a charming couple.
Oh,
There's no
thank
question
you.
about that.
Yes.
Are you doing anything? Have you got a job? Do you want a job? Do you want to go out of the house and work?
We
Either one of you.
kind of in our cluster in the South Middle Village.
Yep.
We asked the neighbors if we could work on the yard, so we've been out cleaning up leaves, and they just love it.
Have you?
We're used to getting on the tractor on our 2 acres and just going outdoors. If we wanted to go to the neighbors, it was an eighth of a mile walk just to get to the neighbors, because everybody owns large acreage where we were at. So you could become very isolated. That's why I always tease that we were attached at the hips.
Yeah. Well, the isolation is not good. It's not healthy.
It can be, but it got to the point where all the family that I have was back east. And my sister lives right here in Carver, so she's 10 minutes away, and we're just thrilled to be able to.
You get along with her sister?
Oh, yes.
Her sister-in-law?
Wonderful person.
Yes,
Is she married?
Yes,
Where does she live?
She lives here in Carver.
Here in Carver?
Yeah, she does all the decorations for Our Lady of the Lords down in Carver. So when people are looking at all that stuff, her flower arrangement, she's very, very talented.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about isolation because I'm a very flamboyant guy. I love people. I like to be with people. And when this COVID thing hit, and we could no longer visit people, couldn't go to a restaurant, had to wear a mask, had to be afraid all the time. I have a girlfriend. She's 87 years old.
Good.
I'm going to be 88 in February, and she's a lot of fun. I couldn't go see her. Couldn't go to her house. She wouldn't let me in the house. I didn't blame her. I wouldn't let anybody in my house. So as that went on, I got very depressed. And I've never been depressed in my life. Oh, don't get me wrong. When somebody I love passed away, I got sad, but temporarily. I get over it. But lately, I don't sleep well. I don't eat well. I miss being with people, even at my age.
I think the whole country, the whole world actually
I
has
think
been
so.
traumatized.
I think so.
And trauma is a very, every single one of us to some degree has suffered trauma from the
Yes.
pandemic.
Yep.
And in Montana, usually people are very friendly, and I was shocked to see somebody in a grocery store yelling at a Chinese person that this has started in your country and acting very
You saw that?
aggressive. Yes, and it really started to bother us. We stayed to ourselves.
Oh yeah, that would kill me.
Yeah, you're not used to that out west. Normally people are.
You're not used to that where people are human beings.
No.
Yeah,
They
take
have
these
heart.
guys.
Yeah.
I was in Korea,
Right.
which was a stupid war.
Yes, thank
so
you for
forgive me,
serving.
but these guys, they got spit on when
Yes.
when they came home.
It was one
They
of
got spit on.
it was one of the worst wars as far as I'm concerned.
Vietnam.
Yes, and I had a boyfriend that went to Vietnam when I was a teenager, and I wasn't one of the people that was spitting on the vets when they came home. I was the one that was saying, "Who's watching the government?"
But that must have been a hell of a shock for these guys.
Oh yeah.
To lay their life on the line for us, and then come home and get spit on.
Right, and a lot of people don't understand post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, there's shell shock, there's
Okay, I want to wait just a minute. PTSD. That's you, am I right?
Yes, sir.
You have to live with that.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? How do you cope with that?
I do it with humor. I tease him if he has a moment. I also have a little PTSD too from a car accident, but mine is tears, his might be anger. So,
But he lives his every day.
yes, he does.
Every day when he gets up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And he shouldn't have to do that.
Well, he's found a person that tries to keep it light and have him live in present moment. And what happened in the village that day was something that was really awesome for Mr. Johnson because he was able to tell the full story. He didn't get to tell it in, he hasn't told it for 45
Sue,
years.
He not only told the story, he told it with passion,
Yes,
and he was very articulate,
yes,
and he was very interesting.
yes.
That's why I invited him back. I never do
Yes.
this.
Well, he had a rough childhood, which makes it hard. Then he had to go to war, which makes it harder. Then he had 3 wives that weren't so nice. But now that we've been together for 15 years, we've learned to put our trust and faith in Almighty God because He got us to this point where we're just so happy. We miss the mountains, don't get us wrong, folks.
You mean that, Sue?
Yes.
Are you into God, into Jesus?
Yes, absolutely. That's who
Yes.
got us across the country. I mean, it was the
Well, you
crazy.
can't go wrong with him.
Uh-uh.
You can't go wrong
No,
with
no.
him. That's
And
for
I
sure.
was raised, there's a guardian angel on one shoulder, the devil's on the. I was raised to have morals and values and scruples and to have. I'm very empathetic. Italians and I'm French Canadian and Italian have very, very big hearts. So, if Bob has a moment and I know that it's starting to escalate, I used to tease him and I have a sense of humor that can snap him out of it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's.
I can just do a ditto and he'll be like, okay.
There was a Reader's Digest had a little thing, laughter, the best medicine.
That's right. It
Yeah.
is.
Are you under therapy now?
No, I don't go to the VA. I have to go to them once a year just to keep my
Status.
status. But other than that, I use my Medicare and AARP.
Is there something about the VA you don't like?
I've had some bad experiences
Have you?
with the VA.
Let me
and-
say this, the VA here,
No, I haven't been to a VA here in Massachusetts.
they are fantastic.
That's what I've heard.
Give them a shot.
I went to the VA in California. Idaho is one of the worst in the nation as far as I'm concerned.
I go there 3-4 times a year. I have 100% of the lives in the village. He's under therapy. He's got PTSD bad. And the point, when he wasn't getting therapy, his wife, who's a lovely lady, as you all are, said, okay, it's been 20 years. I've had it. If you don't go get some therapy, I'm out of here. I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't handle it. So that got him to go to therapy. I talked to him just probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, having a cup of coffee. And I said, how you doing? He said, the biggest thing, I'll never forget my wife for what she did for me, forcing me to go to therapy. I didn't want to lose her. I went to therapy, and I'm 100% better than I was. I still have it. I still got problems, but I'm 100% better than I was. And she was blaming herself for my problem. I said, it's not your fault. It's my fault. So he's 100%er, and he's lost weight, and he looks good. He's active in community affairs in the village. And I was going to give you his name, but I don't want to do that on the air because these medical problems are not for publication. Thank God he's able to speak about it so the people know that he's got PTSD and he doesn't seem to mind it.
No, a person kind of learns to live with it in a way. I don't like the anger part of it. There is a lot of heartfelt parts in it, tears. Could I have done this different? Could I have done that different in my life? would this have made it better? Would that have made it better? And none of it really comes together or meets to where you can really manage it. You just deal with it.
You're coping
It's a horrible thing.
it's
And all of our young veterans that are coming home from these wars that we're having now, our country needs to stand behind them. You know, we was refused and looked bad upon when we came home from the war.
Yep, I remember that.
And never in my life would I have ever thought the American people would turn on their
I know.
own.
Let me tell you a story about what happened to me when I came back from Korea. I wanted to join the VFW. And so I went down to the VFW and I said, I'd like to join. And he said, what war were you in? I said, I just got back from Korea. He said, that wasn't a war. To join the veterans of foreign wars, you've got to be in a war. I said, I thought I was. He said, no, it was an insurrection. It's not a war. He wouldn't take my application. I went home and I said, what the hell is going on here? Now they've changed that. If you're in combat, if you're in a war, you can join the VFW. I shouldn't say if you were in combat, because I was never in combat, never. So,
Well, we heard in the Korean War that they didn't have ample clothing, shoes. They were building igloos
Yeah,
and
it was-
sleeping on top of each other.
it was bad,
Yeah,
but
there's
not
bad
as
in it.
bad as these guys.
Yes,
Not as bad as these
yes,
guys.
I understand.
You know, when I got to Vietnam, when the plane was coming into land, they had to pull up and circle for a while because they was bombing the runway.
Gee.
And so once they got the runway straightened out, we landed. But the first thing I noticed was we were all terrified coming off that plane. But all these men standing on this side of the runway, the looks on their faces, these were the guys going home that had already done their year over there. And the looks on their faces, them men were in trouble. And I knew it. And I was thinking to myself, boy, I'm going to be one of them guys, maybe one of these days.
Yeah.
But along with all them guys standing there with these horrible looks on their faces was all the body bags lined up along the runway, waiting for a plane. And then on the other side was all the new recruits coming in, all the new guys. And everybody was, like I said, they were terrified. They didn't know where they were going, what they were going to be doing. And so that was my main thing was when I got there, was the looks on those men's faces.
We're gonna stop right there. We're gonna take a break. I need my throat is getting dry.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a little break, but we'll be right back. Oh, we're back. We're back. I had a couple of sips of my martini, and I feel better now. My throat is well lubricated, as is the rest of my ancient body. We're back with Sue and Bob Johnson. You don't mind if I use your last name on the air, do you?
No.
And we've had a very nice conversation. I had to ask Sue in my polite way, shut your damn mouth for a minute, wait until we get the cameras back on. Because she goes on and on and on.
That's what happens.
She's a love. She's exactly what Bob needs. That's what I'm trying to say. I told you I have a girl, 87 years old, and she is a hoot. She laughs easily, and she sees the fun in things, although lately she's having a little trouble walking, and she's afraid she's maybe having a little dementia problem, And I said, Carolyn, you don't have a dementia problem. You forget things, but I forgot things when I was 20 years old, didn't you? Because I go into a room at 20 years old, what am I doing here? I do that now. So nothing different.
It's called a senior moment.
She is a lovely lady. That's all I can say.
Congratulations.
She's got 4 children, and they love her, and she loves them, and they watch over her like a hawk. They're not around here, 2 in Florida, and 1 in Rhode Island, and another one way up western part of the state. But they've given me their phone number. They've got mine. They call me up every once in a while and ask me if she's really as good as she sounds. I said, look, what do you want me to do? You want me to squeal on her? She's doing great. She's 87 years old, but she's doing great. What are your future plans? What do you got going? Wait, you already said that you contemplated, you tried suicide. Because you're a screw up, it didn't work.
Yes, you almost had a hate for yourself when you came back from the war.
Oh, you shouldn't have that. You should not have that. Would you contemplate suicide again?
No, just for the simple fact that when I was going through some therapy with a psychiatrist, and the best psychiatrist I'd ever been to was in Idaho, worked for the VA, and he brought it up to me that made me really think about suicide. And what he told me was, if you have children and you do suicide, that sometimes one of your children will follow in your steps.
Oh, wow. Wow, that would stop me.
And I couldn't live with my soul. If one of my boys did suicide because of me.
Yeah, you got to remember that they love you.
Yeah.
And they don't want to see you kill yourself.
Right.
You know, you went all through what you went through to wind up killing yourself. Nah, that's not. I want to say something here. I'm a veteran. He's a veteran. There's a lot of veterans out there, and I know we do a lot for them. I know you're asked to do a lot for them, but I'm here begging you, pleading with you, asking you, whenever you see a vet in trouble, and when I say vet, I don't mean an animal doctor. I'm talking about guys like this. If they need you, be there for them, will you? For the love of God, they were there for you. They saved our democracy. And now I hear somebody said that our democracy is dying. Don't let that happen. Don't let these guys suffer alone. See, they don't know that they've got help right around the corner. They can't believe that. I know. Help them. Help a vet. I have a daughter-in-law, ex-daughter-in-law, my son, who's, I won't go into that, but I love her. I've loved her since she was a little kid, when she first got married to my son. And she is on her own, building a stop for vets that have a problem. And she's doing this out of her own pocket. She hasn't got any money. She hasn't got any money. But all of a sudden now, she's getting a lot of contributions. And the doctors and the psychiatrists and the psychologists in the area have volunteered their time. Not 8 hours a day, but an hour or two. If a vet needs me, give me a call. I'll be there. Isn't that something?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Isn't that something? I think I'm so proud of her that she makes me cry. This guy makes me cry.
Yeah.
Because vets, they've done so much for us.
They gave us our freedom.
And they sacrificed their life and their limbs and their mind.
I think the most horrible part is what they had to witness, because we all know how we feel when someone dies. I could never imagine seeing somebody dead that I took that person's life. It would be so hard.
In Korea, I had a friend that was on what we call a special class in school. I went to school with him because he was slow. He's very slow. And but he was a nice kid. He was a good kid, and I enjoyed him. We used to trade funny books in those days, way back then. Anyway, he couldn't get a job because he was a little slow, so he joined the service. This was before the Korean War. When the Korean War hit, he had already had 2 or 3 years in the service. So he went out over to Korea. He was in a foxhole with a machine gun. I wasn't there, I heard this. And his buddy was feeding the belt in the machine gun, you know what I'm talking about? And all of a sudden the machine gun stopped, and he looked at his buddy, "Hey, come on, what the hell are you?" And he looked down, and the top of his head was gone.
Yeah.
He went crazy. This machine was water cooled. He picked it up and placed it here and charged the Koreans, the North Koreans coming at him. They tell me he got 15 or 16 of them before they cut him to ribbons. I was with his brother, who was in the Air Force in Utah. He was my first sergeant, his brother. And we, over the loudspeaker, we heard Sergeant Emery report to the orderly room immediately. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "Come on, let's go." I was just a PFC. And we went into the orderly room, and he said, "Sergeant, I got bad news for you. Your brother got killed in Korea." And this guy, Sergeant Emery, is a big guy, 6'6", weighed 250 pounds, all muscle. He was a big guy. And there was a fence in the orderly room bolted down to the floor to separate the waiting area from the office area. He took that and he pulled it up. He pulled the floorboards up with it. He was that upset over his brother. They took him away, and thank God he's okay. He passed away now, but he was okay. But just think of that. Machine gun. He knew he was going to get killed.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they do for us. You don't hear about these things. You don't hear about a lot of stuff. Unless you've been in combat, you don't know what it's all about. Okay, we're going to sign off. I appreciate you coming here. Thank you so much for that. I may call on you again
Okay.
when I need a plea for the veterans, because I know you'll help me with that. Have you got anything you'd like to say to the people out there before we sign off?
Just one thing. I came out here out east to find Bigfoot. That bugger has been a thorn in my side for years. He threw rocks at me in Idaho, and by golly, I'm gonna find that guy, because I know he's still running around out there.
Okay.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, the holiday season, and I wish the same for everybody. We're going to sign off now. I have one message for you. December 14th, I'm going to have a veteran in here who's 99 years old. He was in the Second World War, and he wants to tell his story. December 14th is when he'll be here. So probably by the end of December or the first of the year, you'll see that show. But in the meantime, if a veteran needs you, answer. Answer the call. Answer the call. Until then, until the next time, I'm Ken Simmons saying, have a song in your heart. I love you all very, very much. And I'll be back.